How do you assess regulations of the downstream petroleum sector and how might it affect the outlook of the sector next year?
I think we still have too many people operating in the BDC space and also too many people operating in the OMC space.
How did your company fare in 2022 against the backdrop of economic hardships and turbulent petroleum sector?
There were instances where we actually refused to bring in product.
How much money will be needed to revamp TOR?
You should be looking between $220 to $250 million.
What should be the engagement between government and Mbrokoh-Ewoal distributors in finding tailor-made solutions for you?
If TOR can be brought up, it means that a certain portion of our import bill in terms of products will be reduced.
Do you have political ambition?
The political system itself, I would say, is extremely, to my mind, anti-Christian. I think there should be some institutional opportunity given to the members of society to be able to hold our governments accountable.
Today is the last episode of The Hard Truth for the year, and well, I'm excited. Now, 2022 has been a very difficult year in many aspects. One of the major developments that had negative ripple effect in the country had been the rising prices of refined petroleum product. At the pump, we saw petrol going as high as 18 Ghana cedi per litre and diesel reaching 23 Ghana cedis per litre. In the past few weeks, we saw prices trending downwards, but are we out of the woods yet? As the year ends, what is the outlook for the petroleum sector? What will shape the price of petroleum products in the year 2023? To help us to discuss these issues and more, I have with me Mr. Joseph Mbrokoh-Ewoal, a non-executive director of Cirrus Oil Services Limited and a managing partner of Hayford Lord Company. He's a lawyer who has varied executive level experience in oil and gas, finance, and energy businesses. We will seek his views on a few legal and constitutional matters in this country. You are watching The Hard Truth. My name is Nana Akosua Konadu. Uncle Joe, welcome to The Hard Truth.
Thank you.
I'm happy you are here.
I'm happy to be here too.
Na bronya ade no me say chill.
And on your
Patrick.
Yeah.
But it's Aliwa. The red Aliwa. You know already. Now, Uncle Joe, now Cirrus Oil is one of the leading brands in Ghana's downstream oil and gas sector. You are in the top 10 companies that import, store, and distribute of refined petroleum products. Let me ask you this. How did your company fare in 2022 against the backdrop of economic hardships and turbulent petroleum sector?
Well, I would say that we managed, and the reason why we managed was because we actually took a very positive look at the market. We've been in the market for quite a long time. I would say that we probably would be one of the very foremost companies that started the whole BDC space.
37, that's a new in the 10, first 10. That's yes. Quite impressive.
Actually, I would say if you look at the history of BDC, right. It started with 3 companies and it became 5, then 7 and 10. The very first 3, Cirrus was one of them. And so we probably have had a lot of experience in that space. Therefore, we actually had opportunity to take some very hard decisions, because there were instances where we actually refused to bring in products because it was not possible to, as it were, make a proper guess as to where the market would be in terms of the pricing and your ability to offload the price.
So you stay. What made you stay? I mean, you didn't quit.
That's our business. So, I would say that Cirrus is not a portmanteau kind of business that we are only looking for, if you like, fluke opportunities to make a quick buck and then walk away. That is the business we've been involved in. Our executive chairman, who actually started the whole company, has been in the oil business, if I'm not mistaken, close to 40 years.
I see.
Yes. So it isn't something that we just come in and go. We did make a lot of losses, that I must admit. But it was more like cutting our losses than just walking away.
But this year, we also witnessed one of the dramatic increment in fuel prices in the country. In January, it was about, at the pump, it was about 6.9 Ghana cedis. By the end of November, it was 23.29 Ghana cedis. Was it ever within your expectations that things would get to, this worse? And could it have played any different?
Let me just answer the question by looking at 2 components of the pricing. We have the international market price and the local pricing. The international market price is what it is, and we all play within the demand and supply ranges of the market, and it dictates. But when it comes to the local terrain, the huge effect of our foreign exchange, if you like, the depreciation of the cedi, is what resulted in that huge prices at the pumps. I've heard a few people talk about the tax component of those prices, and I will tell you, if we're looking purely into 2022, the tax component is negligible because to date, if my memory serves me right, I think the total tax component, the levies together will be about 2 cities and 90 pesos of the total price that we are paying. So it's actually not that much.
Sanitation tax, those. I mean, are these some of these taxes are really not necessary?
Well, we can come to that. But in talking purely about the pricing, the international market actually did go high.
But in going high, bulk oil distributors and oil marketing companies were blamed for also contributing to the rampant hikes in the fuel price. I remember Katie Hammond, a member of the Energy and Mines Committee of Parliament, specifically said that OMCs and BDCs were taking advantage of the situation to make unnecessary profits. So again, did you and your colleagues, the BDCs and OMCs, worsen an already volatile situation?
The answer is a categorical no. And at times it's unfortunate that I would say our partners in the game, I would say partners because they are legislators and at times they make laws that govern the things we do. Our partners in the game maybe don't take a lot of pains to try and understand what is informing the hikes in the prices. I was saying that the international market itself went very high. I think for the past, if I'm not mistaken, 3 to 6, probably 7 years, we hadn't seen crude oil exceeding $100 per barrel. We hadn't. But this year, we started around $86 per barrel. And then it went all the way, I think I, at the point, saw even 125. I'm talking about dated Brent, which usually we use as a benchmark for our pricing references. Going as far as 125. Technically, if you look at that coupled with the exchange rate that we're working with, you're going to have a problem. Let me also mention here that I'm talking about crude prices, even though we are not dealing directly with crude as it were. There is a quasi correlation between where the Brent, the crude prices are going and the product prices go, because that is what determines what the refiners will call the refiners margin, the demand and supply interplay. So usually you see a kind of a correlated rise in price whenever the crude price.
So are we blaming the price on what happened in the Ukraine-Russia war and then, all the other international factors?
That is an interesting dynamic that at times I am hesitant to do that because we can talk about the effect of the Russian-Ukraine war on international oil pricing. But there is available data to clearly demonstrate that whatever it is, it didn't even reduce the outlay, or if you like, the supply of oil by Russia into the market. It didn't. And so technically, by a pure interplay of available barrels.
But do we buy from them? I mean, or we buy from elsewhere?
Okay, so you buy from the international pool of oil products. And so they are interrelated. The oil market is interrelated in the sense that the combination of what we call sweet crude, light crude, heavy crude, all of them come together to become the feedstock, which the very sophisticated refineries blend in various components to produce the products that we use. And so the fact that we don't buy directly from them does not mean that it doesn't have effect on us, because it is part of the international oil market. Let me give an indication. When there is an outlook concerning the rise or fall of price, it is always looked at on the basis of the available, what we call stock of crude available going forward. And the market's view of that stock, or I would say the surplus of crude available in their storage, determines what pricing they will put on it. So when we look at a basket of crude, like West Texas Intermediate Price and Reference, Brent crude, North Sea supplies, the supplies from the Arabian, and then even Russia, all these come to play on the market. So we may not necessarily be buying from Russia, but the availability of Russian barrels gives a view to the market as to the access to crude on a go-forward basis.
So the war didn't really do anything to the price or increase or decrease of the fuel?
I wouldn't say it didn't.
I see.
It did create an opportunity where there was some amount of uncertainty as to, if you like, the forward position of the, what do you call it, stocks or available stocks going forward, and it did affect prices, yes. But to the tune of the 125, I am yet to see any data or research that actually draws that kind of correlation directly to the Russian Ukraine war.
But for fuel prices are, currently trending downwards, and which is a good news, I think, to some of us. Are we out of the woods yet, sir? Because, what we should expect tempest or expectations. Do we expect anything like that? Are we out of the woods?
I wouldn't be able to say yes or no. It will be good to be out of the woods because it helps all of us. However, the international oil prices, as I indicated, at the time that we reached 125, now we are talking about, I think this morning when I checked, we are talking Brent crude trading around 82. And so definitely we have come down.
$2.
Yes, $82 per barrel. We have come down from the 120. So it has its own direct effect on the pricing that we are having. At the same time, one of the problems that we encountered by way of the uncertainty surrounding the exchange rate has also been somehow curtailed. If you ask me, I'm a lawyer, I'm not an economist, but I'm not in a position to determine clearly, and I don't think I've come across any literature within the last few days to weeks that suggests the reason why we are having a downward trend in the foreign exchange. A lot of speculation has been made as to the fact that maybe the restriction that the central bank placed on the non-availability of Forex for non-critical importations may be making more oil available. I would also want to say that to some extent, the central bank has made more dollars available to the oil industry. I would want to say
right. So moving on to 2023, what is your outlook for the petroleum sector, and how will this, this shape the prices of the petroleum product?
Okay, so we would say economics 101, demand and supply. Now, if you look at what the international market is going to position the prices to be, where our foreign exchange would go will determine what we'll pay. And I think the most recent document I saw regarding the outlook, we usually use a lot of the reference reporters from Europe and America to give an outlook of what is happening. The Energy Information Administration of the US has given an outlook that indicates that we may be looking at oil. They've revised it downwards. We'll be looking at oil for 2023 ranging around
92,
86 to 92.
92 US dollars.
Yeah. So it means that right now we are where? We are talking about, is it 14 cedis to a liter?
Yeah.
Maybe as the foreign exchange comes down, probably we'll see 12, 13, maybe 11. But it is also correlated to the $86 that I'm talking about now. So if for any reason we are going up into the 1992s and even the hundreds, with the foreign exchange even improving, you are still going to have a situation where the prices will be high. So 10 cedis to a liter would be a good thing for all of us, but I doubt.
So with all these things, how and to what extent will this affect affect the prices in the fuel next year? With all this you've said, I mean, from 92 is going to be 92. We are speculating in 2023. So again, what is the extent of the effect prices in the country during the next year?
So that is what I'm saying, that it's like looking into a crystal ball to tell what is going to happen tomorrow. That is what the oil price is. However, we have some indicators, like we just mentioned, the EIA report that indicates 92. That could be a reference. But where would our foreign CD to US dollar exchange rate be? What would it be? And how much of those dollars will be available to us for the import?
But because we realize again that international market prices have always influenced, the fuel price in this country.
Yes,
but
they do.
How can we again mitigate this, and what should be our focus?
There are different schools of thought. I personally believe strongly that the opportunity to, let me use the word revive, the thermal oil refinery, albeit under a different structure, has a potential of reducing the harsh effects of the international pricing on our products. And why am I saying that? We, through another affiliate of ours, that is Woodfields, did a program with a refinery where we actually refined over an 18-month period crude oil into products. Majority of the products were exported.
That was just about 43,000, 42,000 metric tons, thereabout.
No.
I'm listening.
So
I'm listening.
A total of just under 9 million barrels was processed through the refinery over call it 16 to 18 months period, because there were some shutdown periods that we experienced. Now, whenever you put, let me put this with the slates of crude that we put in there, you were getting about roughly 45 to 60% for the local market, because those were the gas oils, the ATKs, and to a little extent the LPG, very, very minimal. Now, the atmospheric residue, which we call the fuel oil, and the naphtha was exported because we don't have the capacity to bring them further down into petroleum products for our market, so they were exported. So give and take, you're talking about 45% of whatever we process going into export. And to my mind, this gas oil, I think there's a bit of a problem to the, maybe I shouldn't call it a problem, but it's a kind of a specification challenge. All the products that are produced in Ghana have a higher sulfur, content.
And that's bad?
It's not a matter of bad or good, it's a matter of standards.
So, so standard-wise, I'm not using term-wise.
Okay, so previously we're actually doing 3,000 ppm, that is a measure of sulfur content in the product. And then it was brought down to 1,005. Tamale Refinery is able to produce 1,500 ppm. According to data from the Ministry of Energy, it will need roughly about $150 million to revamp its kit.
Exactly. So I was going to ask you, what should be a revamp of TOR? How should it look like, the revamp of TOR? How would that look like, and what did it mean for the BDCs in terms of your operations and pricing?
It is going to be a good thing for the BDCs, because you see, whatever is, as I indicated, all the products that were produced during the period we had the processing of the crude, the local products were bought by the BDCs locally. And so immediate access to product readily available next door, it's a better option for planning than to look at the attendant problems of bringing in parcels on the high seas. You come in, and if you don't have a slot to discharge, you're going to have a huge demurrage sitting on your bill, and those are some of the things that cause a problem for the BDCs. So BDCs will like an opportunity like that. I would want to believe that. Now, the other side is, what is the structure? What is the nature of the structure? It should be. I think it should not be purely government. It should definitely be
a PPP.
Government should partner with private sector, because that grandfather mentality that probably state enterprises operate under is not very helpful. These seem very competent persons, and I'm using the word very competent because with my experience with the processing we did at the refinery, the guys are competent. They have the knowledge and the capacity to do very well.
But Uncle Joe, I'm worried because there's been several calls, year after year, that government after government to revamp TOR, but we've seen, anyways, a significant improvement. There's not been any significant change. But personally, and from your interactions with the industry players, do you have any confidence in this happening anytime soon?
It can happen, but I would be blunt to say that it must take a political will, because any private person that is going into TOR, over the top of my head, would have to send about 50% of their staff home. They are overstaffed completely. I know it will be contested by other persons, but TOR is overstaffed. I have had probably my 24, 25 years work experience with a refinery at the back of my mind to tell me that TOR is completely overstaffed. So if you're going to go into a PPP as you suggested, it will presuppose that a private man is not going to pay anybody to sit down not doing anything. So a very comprehensive...
So are you saying that people are TOR sitting there not doing anything
right now? I want to believe that, because jobs are duplicated and people are there really not doing much. They are there not doing much. And I am thinking that if they are able to slash that down, which will only happen if you're looking at a private person coming in. And the question, the statement as I made, would there be the political will for any government to then bite the bullet and decide that, okay, we're going into a private engagement with TOR and let them do what they have to do to keep the place the way it is? It has to be by a PPP, and definitely that will result in all kinds of, if you like, HR issues. With government, usually
do you have any? I can see you have a lot of information. So, do you, on top of your head, do you have any PPP or any private person interested in doing that?
I may decide not to offer it here, basically because this is a country that has mastered in picking people's ideas and then using them to the disadvantage of the, if you like, the originators.
But there's a right platform to share some of these things so that we can actually push government into doing some of these things. So again, is there a partner or a private company that you think are capable of handling TOR?
Okay, TOR is a state enterprise
Yes.
entity. Therefore, it is squarely within the ambit of the Public Procurement Authority. If they want to go into any of this, I think that the government can engage an international company that is competent.
Like which one?
Well, there are companies like CETA, we've worked with them. It's an international consulting firm, which can actually give them a kind of a blueprint or a structure that they can use to invite competent strategic partners. They will set out the criteria for the partners and then engage them to get TOR running again. Because I think that TOR can run again, and we should look at getting it to run.
You're still watching The Hard Truth. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are still watching The Hard Truth. I still have with me a non-executive director of Cirrus Oil Limited. Am I right?
Yes.
Oil Services Limited, Mr. Joseph Mbrokoh-Ewoal. Uncle Joe, is there a company in Ghana or a private company in Ghana that can, from where you said, that can partner with TOR?
Oh, yes. When the right structures are put in place, that guarantees that they would have opportunity to make profit from it.
But do they have the financial backup or margins to do it?
They may not necessarily have it, but I think in fairness, in accordance with the local content policy that is being pursued by the Ministry of Energy, one would expect that even if you're bringing in a foreign company, you definitely will have to use a local partner. And this is why I see the local partners probably setting the stage and they having the opportunity to go and procure the participation of their international partners to help in providing not necessarily the technical, but actually the financial and commercial platform to enable such a PPP to be profitable. But
how much, from where you sit again, how much money will be needed to revamp TOR?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. In its current state at 45,000 barrels per stream day, by improving its utilities, bringing the RFCC back to work, bringing the premium former back to work, and improving upon its, if you like, logistic systems, i.e. automation of pump stations, automation of rack loading facilities, I would say over the top of my head, and don't hold me to it. And I'm sure your listeners will hold me to it because I'm a lawyer. I'm
listening.
Picking figures from what I have read and the engagement with TOR. You should be looking between $220 to $250 million to be able to do these kinds of things, including creating a facility to desulfurize TOR so that they can produce
$220 million to revamp TOR is what you're saying.
$220 to $250
million. I see. Now, on the issue of Forex, even though the city made some gains, how optimistic are you of its stability next year and against the backdrop of an IMF program?
I would just say we wait and see because, you remember as we were having this conversation, really? I did say...
Is that healthy? Doing the waiting game? Isn't that frustrating?
I did say that the city has appreciated. But as I sit here, I haven't come across any economic data or workout that is actually explaining the reason why we have had the appreciation. If it is just a fluke, then we are in trouble.
Does it look like a fluke?
I'm not so sure. I can't say yes and I can't say no because I'm still trying to understand what is informing that. As I indicated, there are some measures that have been taken by the central bank, i.e. to restrict the availability of Forex for what they consider the non-essentials. Now, going forward, are we still going to be heavily dependent on import? If you're going to be heavily dependent on imports, and when we enter 2023, we are still going to relax, if you like, those restrictions, then I am afraid we probably are not out of the woodworks here, because economics 101, this is purely on the basis of balance of trade and our balance of payment.
Yeah.
For as long as we are importing more and more and more,
exactly.
there will be a huge demand on Forex.
Right. So now, in tackling the challenge of the foreign exchange risk due to the depreciation of the city, what should be the engagement between government and bulk oil distributors in finding tailor-made solutions for you?
We cannot remove the imports completely because we do not have production capacity. I have already iterated my view that TOR can be brought up. If TOR can be brought up, it means that a certain portion of our import bill in terms of products will be reduced. Because, on the balance of, trading activity, when you import crude, you would still have an opportunity to export a part of it, because the naphtha, which is not being used in Ghana, will be exported. And then the atmospheric residue, which is also not used in Ghana, will also be exported. So on the like for like, let's say if you spend 100 million for importing the crude oil, you have an opportunity of earning about 40 million back. And so it'll be a better...
That's good business.
Yeah, it'll be a better option by way of the stress on the foreign exchange. You'll be earning foreign exchange rather than depending completely on importation,
right,
which would be a huge stress on
But again, it's government's decision to buy oil products with gold, a good decision to the forest pressures, and what will be the shortfall in the foreign exchange?
I haven't had opportunity to study fully the documents that are governing this, but I am aware that this probably is emanating from what I understand to be the domestic gold purchasing program that was being pursued by the central bank to help it improve the foreign reserves of the country. And to that extent, I am thinking that if that involves an ability to purchase the gold with cedi as it is being presented, then yes, we probably are able to have a little bit of a cushion against the harsh effects of completely selling all the gold out and not getting an opportunity to maybe buy some in our cedi. However, I would also say that the international, traders in oil by themselves are not interested in trading in gold. And so what I know from the conversations going on is that they are not going to exchange the gold for oil. They're going to make the gold available to, if you like, gold brokers or gold traders who are going to use that as a basis to provide foreign exchange.
So we are not necessarily doing barter. I'll give you gold, I'll give you oil.
Because let me pick the companies that I'm aware of. I mean, like BP, that we import a lot from, and then Vitol, that we also import a bit of our stock from. These two companies don't trade in gold. And everybody knows that if you're going to take a commodity, why would they do a cross-commodity price risk by engaging in an activity they are not
But why not? Isn't that a good decision, trading in gold? Do you think it's a good decision?
Well, all companies choose their, if you like, cup of tea they want to drink by way of business. Vitol is involved in a lot of energy activities, renewables, and Vitol has even ever traded in sugar by way of getting into the Cuban market. So there was Vitol sugar that was created specifically for that. But I don't think with the nature of the market as it is now, we are going to go that. Because
but we hear that the Emiratis are interested, the Emirates Gold Company,
Well, so I would want to believe that on a very high level, it might be a kind of a tripartite arrangement where the Emiratis are providing a gold broker or gold trader who is going to sit in to take the gold Ghana would offer. And then they will use the proceeds from that sale of gold to pay for the oil that they would supply to Ghana.
I think it's Emirates National Oil Company or something like that. Enak.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, again, please, let's go back to the taxes. I'm really interested in that topic. Government has been advised to, I think on several occasions, to rationalize the various taxes and levies imposed on petroleum products. What is the position on that, Uncle Joe?
The energy debt recovery levy that is slapped on the products that we are paying, for instance, has come about because from about 2011 through 2013 and 14, a huge debt was created because government was regulating the pricing of petroleum products, setting prices, and preventing the market forces to dictate how the price should be. It got to a point it could not be financed anymore. Actually, um, some of the companies lost their assets because they were owing the banks. And so historically, TOR was the one that was holding this debt on its books because of the subsidy government was putting on prices.
Right.
When TOR left the refinery business, and it was now the BDC that was supplying, because the government was fixing the price, it was creating a situation where the landed cost of products was higher than the eventual price at which they were allowed to sell. So government was supposed to pay for the difference. And this was sitting on the books of the banks as debt owed by the BDCs. It was a huge amount. On the basis of that, since government was not able to pay for these debts, then we got the Energy Sector Levy Act enacted in 2015. I think it has been revised twice. And on the basis of that, the Energy Debt Recovery Levy was put in place. This is put in place as a payment, as a revenue collection activity to be able to provide funds to pay coupon payments for the ESLA bonds that were issued in repayment of the debts that were created when government was subsidizing. So now, if anybody is shouting that they should remove that, what they call it, those tax elements, and I actually indicated to you from this conversation that it's not that much. I think,
Yeah, but it adds to, Uncle Joe, it adds on,
yeah, but
doesn't it?
yeah,
But
what it means
why
is
should
that
we even pay BOST? I mean, why do we have to pay something to BOST? So don't you think that the BOST margin should be scrapped? Shouldn't it be scrapped? Hasn't it lost its relevance?
I wouldn't say it has lost its relevance. Maybe it can be re-rationalized in a way to provide what BOST was set up to provide. BOST was set up to provide strategic stock management for the nation. And to that extent, it was not technically a profit-making venture. So the question is that how does it pay for its activities? It has to have some revenue or it has to operate under government subvention. And I think that the BOST margin, I don't think it should be scrapped. It just should be
But aren't they
rationalized.
commercializing now? BOST, they commercialize, don't they?
Yes and
So
no.
can't they take care of their own business? Why do they have to put it on us to pay?
Well, yes and no. Like I said,
Why
the
are you
strategic
smiling?
stock, yeah, because the strategic stock concept hasn't gone away and it's still quite relevant. Now, let me put it this way: BOST as what do you call it, an asset holder, technically does not actually do a lot of imports. They don't. Every now and then they do one import and stuff like that to ensure that products are made available, especially in the north, and then also there's what do you call the midsection of the country. And so it's important to support them to do this. And it's important also to help them to replace infrastructure as they become less and less, what do you call it? They become obsolete, if I may put it that way. The reason why I am also in support of those who at times call for removing the BOST margin is that BOST is operating an infrastructure, and so are other BDCs. But in the price build-up, there is no margin guarantee given to the BDCs for the putting in place of the facilities and operating the infrastructure. So that is a bit of the argument
So
that is a bit unfair.
should we keep quiet and pay, just shush and pay the tax?
Well, as for the payment, they should, but probably they should give a bit of that money to the BDCs. It is important if we are helping to build infrastructure and to maintain them for the long haul. And I believe that they should give something to the BDCs as well. Because as it stands now, BDCs don't have any guaranteed margin for doing business.
Let's talk about the Minister for Energy, Honorable Prempeh.
Yes.
How do you find him? Is he up to the task?
Honestly, I would be hesitant to voice an opinion on that, basically because when you look at the energy sector, for instance, the energy sector has a way of, if I would say, driving its own dynamics. And the ministers that come in only help with politics and the policies that are supposed to govern it. The minister, as you mentioned, he appears to be a go-getter. He appears to be somebody who's, maybe let me use the word, quite pushy, to some extent, a bit difficult to please, because I think most of the time he has opportunity to hear a lot of information from different people, those who mean well and those who don't mean well. I'll be honest with you, the energy sector is not a walk in the park. You can have the most brilliant person in there. And if you don't get the opportunity of people who have the, if you like,
Experience?
Yes, very deep experience and goodwill for the industry, they will lead you astray.
So is he being led astray?
I think that to some extent, at times, he's listening to too many people.
And that's, leading him astray.
And I won't say it's leading him astray. It makes it very difficult to convince him on positions that you think.
So how do we correct that? Because he's the Minister for Energy. So how can that be corrected?
It's a personality issue, one. And two, it also borders on the people that he is working with. Do they have opportunity and accessibility to probably provide all the information that he needs? Because he's got some very good people around him. I must be honest. He's got some very good people around him at the ministry.
To conclude on the petroleum sector, how do you assess regulations of the downstream petroleum sector, and how might it affect the outlook of the sector next year?
As for the regulation, I think they're doing very well. NPA is doing very well. Even though I personally believe at times there are quite a few knee-jerk reactions. Like sometime early this year, when the prices started going up, there was some talk about getting BOST to import their own products and then probably undercut the pricing of the BDCs and stuff. That those are not things that I think should work. And then recently also, when prices started going very high, there was a talk about opening up for the international oil trading companies, those that the BDCs import from, to also participate directly in the marketplace, and even imposing some licensing fees for these persons to operate in there. I think those things at times are a bit reactionary, and maybe they could do better. But in a nutshell, they've done very well. I mean, it's come a long way, especially in trying to sanitize the area of quality of product, and then also the bit about, if you like, the portmanteau business persons. But I think we still have too many people operating in the BDC space, and also too many people operating in the OMC space. Why do I say that? Last year and this year, when you look at it, averagely our total outlay, demand for products across all products is about 4.5, 4.6 million tons. Now, if you break this down to what do you call it, supply per month, let's say roughly we're talking about 400,000, shy of 400,000 tons a month. Now, if this is being supplied by
37 of you.
Yeah, 37. Now, how much of it is being supplied by each one? If everybody is supposed to.
So what are you saying? Should some of you shut down? Or your company shut down? Will you? What would you do? What are you saying?
We're not going to shut down, but they should create an opportunity that would lead to integration, or those that have to fall out will fall out. And I'm saying this because the license renewal fee for the BDCs, or now we have the BDC, that is bulk import and distribution and export companies, is $350,000. Now,
license fee only.
Yes, $350,000. Now, this $350,000, if a person has paid this money, it means that within the year he must generate business at the barest minimum to pay for that. Not thinking about how they would, or what do you call it, pay for their operating expenses and even make some margin for themselves. What it means is that if he has paid that, you give them the incentive for malfeasance. And so you have situations where every now and then you're talking about products that are, now it's gone down, maybe I would say it's maybe somehow eradicated, where you have people actually discharging products not through the authorized means.
Yeah.
And you're asking yourself, why is that? Yeah, the opportunity is created. If they don't have the license, they will not be able to do that. Number two, there are instances where by customs records, there is an imbalance between what is imported and what is eventually taxed at the pumps. Where does the rest of the product go? And so I strongly believe that if we have limited number of persons to deal with, whose activities will be fully and openly before the regulator, I think.
But don't you have regulations? Don't they go in to check some of these things? Don't you check it?
I think it is only in the, I won't use the word utopia, but ideal situation that you would find no malfeasance being practiced. But what I'm saying is that yes, they have the checks, they do the checks, but if the person has had opportunity to incur a huge cost like this, he must find ways to pay it. And maybe the magician that the Ghanaian is would make it possible for him to look for other ways Checks or no checks?
You're still watching The Hard Truth. Do stay. Welcome back. This is the final episode of The Hard Truth for 2022. Lawyer Joseph Mbrokoh-Ewoal is still here. So, you're a lawyer. What do you see as the high points and low points of the profession this year, of the law profession this year?
Let me start with the low point. For me, the low point was all these media reportage about the leakage in the law, the bar exams and stuff like that. That was the lowest point for me because
that was true, right?
It is a sad event because a profession that we pride ourselves being a noble profession where even a certain level of morality is required before you're even admitted to be a lawyer. If people that are coming in are seen to be pursuing or endangering the
profession,
the profession by pursuing, if you like, avenues for cheating, then that is very sad. That is very sad. So for me, that was the.
So after investigations, what happened to people who were involved in these things?
I haven't followed it myself, but so I haven't followed it, and I'm sure probably some actions will be taken against the persons. Yeah.
And the high points?
High points. This is probably known only to the members of the profession. There's been a huge drive to encourage, if you like, ICT awareness. Actually, during this legal vacation, it was possible for our vacation cases to be heard virtually without having to go into the courtroom. And I thought that was a great achievement.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I thought that was very great. That was very great, yeah.
But sir, as a member of the Ghana Bar Association, again, how do you react to criticisms that the association has become an appendage for existing elite politics?
Well, I would say it as it is. I think it is not only to do with the Ghana Bar Association. It's sad, but Ghana has lost its capacity to have any, if you like, meaningful institution that holds governments accountable. Everything in our nation discourse has been politicized. Everything. And so even when we go to the Bar Association to elect presidents, the drive for whoever is to be elected somehow is even dictated by the government in power. And I'm not ashamed to say that. It's a very sad development. So what it means is that unlike the previous time that you could have probably members of the bar, including the executive, standing very much against anything they believe as an affront to the build-up of society, you don't have that anymore. Yeah, because the point is that even among our own ranks, where people are tagged as belonging to the other side of the political divide, suggestions that are shared are tagged as political statements. And so I would say that the Ghana Bar Association is only a reflection of how much we have descended as a society in politicizing almost everything about our national discourse. So it's not only the Bar Association. I asked a very senior justice of the Superior Courts over the weekend when we had opportunity to discuss some issues. And I asked the same question. I believe that we have to strengthen our institutions. How do we start it? I really don't know. But I think we should get to a point where I am sure at various platform levels, old school platforms, professional platforms, even church platforms and various, various professional platforms. The discourse is very clear. Everybody appears not to be happy with what is going on. But my views have always been, if we keep talking on our various WhatsApp platforms and our social media platforms, where does it go?
Yeah.
It ends there, because the people that we are sharing the views with are already aware of the issues that needs to be tackled. So the question is, what can we do next? Maybe those of you in the media landscape can help us probably to move beyond the, if you like, the internal advocacy to the external advocacy, where we can begin to maybe shout very clearly that, guys, we better fix this country or we're going down the tubes. Unfortunately, that is what it looks like.
This is
Everything has been politicized, and nobody wants to stick his neck out to say anything that would be seen as attacking the government. Then I'll also mention this. It's unfortunate, and I am not going to be able to name names, but at least within the ranks of where we operate, we do hear the stories. These civil societies or civil society organizations that we have, the few that we have in the country, appear to have lost their credibility completely. Nobody believes them, because in certain discourse, and some I have heard myself, not somebody telling me, where we have engaged on some matters of national importance, you've had some members of government, not now, not only here in this current government, even in the previous government, said, oh no, we will sort them out. And indeed, they sort them out.
How? To shut up?
Yes. And indeed, after the gestures of sorting them out, you have instances where the matter that you think is gathering momentum for attention dies out. And so then when people start shouting, you ask yourself, what is the reason for the shouting? Is it going to go anywhere?
They've been sorted out.
Yes. So your question is a very apt question. Where do we go?
2023, what should be the posture, not just for the lawyers, of Ghanaians moving on?
When you look at some recommendations that were made, and I'm looking at the Constitutional Review Commission recommendations that were made. I think the one that included Professor Tuguba and the others. The government white paper rejected a lot of things that was said. Now, what was mentioned that the expectation for change available to society was through the adult suffrage. But the question is that, should we always have to wait for 4 years before we can decide whether we are happy with somebody or not? I think there should be some institutional opportunity given to the members of society to be able to hold our governments accountable.
So we can say that the current constitution is gradually becoming outdated. We can say that, can't we?
In some respects, I will mention one particular area that I personally feel very strongly about. The area about the appointment of the DCs and MCs by the president. I think it shouldn't. I don't think it should. My clear view is that they are supposed to work for the benefit of their localities. And when it happens like that, it is the people that the party in government is able to promote to the president that gets appointed. Because most of the time, the president, I would want to believe, does not even know these people. He doesn't know them. They have been recommended to him by people who supposedly know them. But the so-called know, I would want to say, is tainted by they know they will serve their purpose rather than the purpose of the community.
But Ankijo, you know that the reviews or the call for the reviews are falling on deaf ears, I would say. So what are the implications if we continue as this or as we are on now?
Well, something must give. We can't continue like this. If it is falling on deaf ears, we should still keep shouting. We still keep shouting. We should still keep shouting until we are ahead. Maybe like blind Bartimaeus in the Bible, we just keep shouting until we are ahead, because we can't go on like this. Something must give.
Let's talk about you right now. I understand you have a passion for music. You have a company called the Upswing Music Company. Tell me about it. What's the plan for Christmas? First of all, I want to know about Upswing. And tell me the plans for Christmas.
I've loved music, and then I grew up in a home where my mother was always singing, irrespective of whatever the circumstances were. She was always singing. My father was also in the choir, and I also joined the choir growing up. Upswing Music was formed to provide an opportunity for quality. Reason being because my involvement...
Quality in what, music?
Yes, quality in sound production. And so it's called upstream music, but it's actually a sound reinforcement, or what we call a pro audio company. Yeah, basically doing installations and providing sound equipment for events. That is basically what upstream does. Yes.
I see. So I'm still interested. Any plans for Christmas?
For myself, for upstream?
Yeah, Upswing.
Upstream is always very busy during Christmas because they actually host most conventions of churches. We have equipment to probably deploy 6 events at the same time. So most of the time during Christmas.
I heard you were the sound engineer for the Whiskey program. Is that true?
No, we were not.
Oh, I see.
But it was a collaboration. We provided some equipment to the main sound company. Yes. Yes. So Christmas upstream would be fully booked, providing.
So if we need services, you can't attend to us or something. If my viewers want something for something.
Well, it depends. I have my own personal equipment. And that is also able to deploy to serve up to about 5,000 persons.
I see.
So if push comes to shove and we have to do that, you only have to get me an engineer who would attend to the equipment. And then, yes, it can be provided. So upstream is booked for Christmas to provide sound reinforcement and pro audio services.
How are you like as a person? Are you, because we did a little survey, we asked some of them. They said, hey, Uncle Joe, I mean, with your employees, how are you like with them? The near day, he's a father, but the near day. What does it mean to marry these two?
I personally believe that everybody has opportunity to progress. I have managed to get here because the people that saw me when I was younger gave me an opportunity and they gave me a second chance. But they did not leave me to swim on a boat without opportunities and the whip. So to my mind, it is important to allow people,
whipping is necessary.
Yes, to keep people in order. I am a father and I would say I have a father's heart, but when it has to do with performance, I think to some extent I would say I'm a bit unreasonable.
Are you difficult to work with?
I don't think so. I personally don't think so. Even though recently I've had experiences where a few of my staff had gotten frightened about a few things because they overheard me running through some report that others have done with them, and it filled them with trepidation. But I'm a father, as I said. I had to bring that particular person close and tell her that, listen, don't get worried about these things. All you have to understand is that because I have a lot of things to do, I have very limited time for ancillaries. So by the time you come, you must have your ducks in line, because I would interrogate, I would ask questions, because I like to be convinced about a position before, if you like, authority is given or approval is given for anything. So I am not difficult to work with, but if a person doesn't want to be meticulous and want to produce results, they would be unhappy around me. In my work, all the people work around me. I have a phrase that I started with very early in life, and the phrase is how you go do well.
How you go do well.
How you go do well.
Do you have political ambitions?
No, not even one.
Not even one?
No.
But you want to push other Christians to go into politics, so why not you?
I wouldn't even talk about pushing Christians into politics, you see, because the political system itself, I would say, is extremely, to my mind, anti-Christian. Because I had a conversation with a very senior politician, a man I respect so much. And one of the things he said is that, as for us politicians, all we are interested in is winning power and what to do to maintain power.
That's it.
And I was like, okay, then this is not for me. Because from a Christian perspective, we get opportunity to serve to improve the lot of others. So if the political ideology or the political goal of all political parties is to win power and maintain power, then it does not necessarily align with the opportunity to help people to develop. And for that reason, I take a view, I'm not interested.
Knowing very well that you're a member of the Church of Pentecost, so that possessing the nation agenda is not for, it's not in political terms for the Church of Pentecost members.
Personally, where we sit now in Ghana, it would be a difficult task for any member of the church who is already in politics or even wants to go into politics.
How difficult?
Okay, so you would have to win primaries. And I think there is no gainsaying what goes into winning primaries. Cajoling, maligning, to the extent of even buying people's conscience. For me, that is very unethical. The question is, can anybody genuinely stand on a political platform and on the full basis of his integrity and capacity win a primaries?
That's
I
not
don't think
possible. So Christians, it's a no-go area for Christians.
I will not say it's a no-go. They can keep trying, but for me, I will not want to give myself any heartaches by getting involved in that.
Thank you so much for talking to the Hard Truth.
Thank you too.
That is it for tonight. I've been speaking to Joseph Mbrokoh-Ewoal on the last episode of The Hard Truth for 2022. He's a non-executive director of Cirrus Oil Services Limited and a managing partner of Fayford Law Company. Much appreciation to Karen Hapok for my lovely costume. A big thank you to you all viewers for sticking and stay with us throughout the entire year. We pray for and hope that 2023 will be an amazing and incredible year for all of us. Catch a repeat of the program on Saturday at 2 p.m. My name is Nana Akosua Konadu. Thank you, Afisha, to all of you. Good evening.